Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Um, in this episode of Bitcoin in real life, I'm going to talk a little bit something about the recent current events and news, but I'm also going to share some of the things that I'm doing here. Um, so, some of the news that's come up, and I'll just go right to it if you don't mind. Okay, this has come up again. Ex-Secret Service agent who stole $800,000 in Bitcoin newly arrested. Turns out Mr. Bridges doesn't want to go to prison. Was trying to flee, and I guess being a flea is worse than being a mouse because he definitely doesn't want to be a man, you know. So. Uh, of flea and men, Mr. Bridges has chosen to be a flea. If you know where that's from, let me give you a hint. I grew up a little bit in my young adolescence in Steinbeck country. So John Steinbeck, the author of Mice and Men, just want to plug that in there. Anyways, so back to this. So apparently, you got to read this story. It all ties back to Silk Road again and all this stuff. And if you notice, I highlighted Belize right here. Well, believe it or not, I do have plans to go to Belize. It's interesting that Mr. Bridges has an offshore bank account in Belize. I don't blame him because Belize is considered a tax haven for offshore banking. Another note, something that I'm going to be doing, there's a daily flight from Hobby Airport, basically Houston, to Belize. Daily flight offered by Southwest Airlines. So I've already been, and this is the weird thing is, people have mentioned to me about Belize and all this other stuff. I have never considered it, but I'm considering it now because I do plan on going international with my company and companies. A lot of tax haven benefits. There's a lot of benefits to offshore banking. It's not illegal. Anybody can do it. Mr. Bridges had a few apparently in Nevis and also Maui TS right here. This one in particular. I'll highlight it. This area. I'm not sure, but Belize is one of my areas of interest. Mainly because and the reason why Belize, believe it or not, I was just randomly looking at the news, and it's just amazing how the Creator just guides you in your way on your path. But I read a news article about Southwest Airlines offering daily flights to Belize, daily from Hobby Airport, which isn't too far from where I live. Actually, it's a lot closer than the Houston International Airport. So I took that as a sign, and I was already committed to going to Belize for all my offshore banking needs, just because there's tax benefits, there are other benefits, and it allows me to go international. So I find that very interesting. So anyways, if you read the whole story, I mean, he got caught with some passports. Okay, so here's the rest of the story right here. This particular line right here. Okay, an arrest warrant was issued under seal on Wednesday and executed on Thursday. During the arrest, according to court documents, officers found bags containing Bridges' passport and a notarized copy of his passport, as well as corporate records for 3 offshore entities in Nevis, Belize, and that other place I can't pronounce. He also had several Secret Service issued bulletproof vests, which the state contends had been stolen from the government. So, my gosh, this guy's just a pure thief. Anyways, after reading this, I wanted to know, what do Carl Mark Force and Sean Bridges look like? I mean, they've obviously been booked, and it's public now. So let's take a look. So here it is. There's other pictures in here. There's Ross Ulbricht, of course. But if you want to know what Sean Bridges looks like, let me just scroll down, and you also get to see Carl Mark Force, what they look like. And there you go. Here are the two gentlemen wreaking havoc among the Bitcoin community, or has been wreaking havoc. Will hopefully no longer wreak any havoc. And this is my first time ever seeing what their faces look like. Now, if you ask me, these two are worse than the worst. People who betray their beliefs for money, in my opinion, whether you're in the law force community, whether you're in a certain agency, whatever clan or department you're in, selling out for money is the worst. I mean, it's worse than someone who goes to the other side, right? It's worse than someone who's a traitor to the other side. Doing things for money, the worst. It's worse than a murderer. It's worse than a rapist. It's worse than a child molester. It is the worst of the worst. And so, there's a lot of shame here. And anyways, I'm sure they'll have a lot of time to think about it. But that's kind of my point here. So here we go, back to Sean. Where were you going? Where are you going, buddy? Where are you going, Sean? I mean, you don't want to spend time with all those other people out there. I don't know if he's going to federal prison or to like a real prison with the general population. He probably isn't. He's probably going to go to one of those nicer prison. What's interesting is, okay, here's the interesting part. One of my partner writes books for prisoners. Right? He's an author. One of my partner is an author and writes books for people who are in prison. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure that you get a copy of one of his books. One of his books. I'm going to make sure you get a copy. I'm going to try to find out some way. I'm going to try to find out where you guys are going to be imprisoned. I'm going to send you a book. One of my partner who actually writes about. Oh, let me see. Who actually writes for people, writes novels, and his intention is to write them for prisoners who are in prison. Ironic, isn't it? Ironic how things turn out. Anyways, there you go on that. Where are you going, Sean? Where are you going? I hope you weren't trying to flee. No, yeah, I'm sure you weren't. I mean, I'm sure you have a really good explanation of why you had a MacBook with the serial number scratched off inside of a bulletproof vest under your mattress. I wonder, I'm sure you can explain that. And also, I'm sure you could explain why you had your passport ready and your wife was applying for citizenship in another country. I'm sure you could explain all that too. I'm sure there's a good reason. You were just making sure your money was safe while you were in prison, right? I mean, that's all you were doing. I totally understand that. Anyways, let's go on to the next one. Okay, the next story. Oh yes. I'm always watching. I'm always paying attention. I'm always seeing. And Miss Perry Ann Boring has always been um, a source of attention for me. Because some of the things she's doing, I do want to go in that direction, but a little different, and hopefully one day we'll have a chance to meet. I mean, I'm still waiting to meet, and that's her right there, and she talks about different things. She's doing a lot of things. There's some Q&A here, and some of the things I would talk about is being represented. I want to be represented, whether it's through my own lobbying, whether it's through an actual representative, whether it's through some other force, even through myself. I want to be represented. Here's a great article. I'm always paying attention. I'm always looking. I'm always watching. I'm always reading. I'm always listening. So, but one day I hope to meet this amazing woman. So this leads me to my other thing about what I'm doing. And in my last episode, I talk about if you want to be taken serious in any venue, whether political, legal, or out in the streets or in Wall Street or the streets or Main Street, you need to come with a show of force. All right, and some of the things that I'm doing to do that is, well, I don't know if you know what this is. Oh, here, let me back up. Oh, yeah, there you go, back up. This is my Polymer 80. Okay, let me just take it out while I'm here. This is a brand new one. I bought many of these. See, this is new because, sorry for the low lighting, that you see that it's not milled right here, as you see. It's not milled at all. Brand new. No holes drilled in it, nothing. So, basically, when you join my company, this is what you get. You get one of these. You get a lower as a gift for joining this company, for making that decision, for choosing and making that choice. This is what you get, okay? And so that's one of the things I'm doing. And the reason why I'm doing that is if you're going to be taken seriously, you have to show up with a show of force. Now, it doesn't mean you have to use force or you have to engage in any type of force or deadly force or any kind of force. You just have to show you have force. And that's what I'm trying to get at. Once you have that, or once you're able to show that or prove it, I think you'll be taken a little bit more seriously. And it's also symbolic as well for me. Perhaps the members of my company or companies, maybe they aren't really into guns. Most of my members are into guns. All right, they have their own guns or believe in the Second Amendment. But really, it's just it's a gift that I give, and whether they want to make something out of it or not doesn't really matter. It's also a symbol. It symbolizes, what are you fighting for? And it symbolizes freedom. It symbolizes a lot of things. But most importantly, it symbolizes your right to exist, your right to fight, your right to, whatever you believe in. it's it's something that I just want to do. And so, if anybody who's crazy enough to join me, and if you are that crazy enough, well, guess what? You're gonna get one of these as a gift for joining my company. And so these are some of the things that I'm doing uh, at Bitcoin in the real world. And as Bitcoin comes out physically manifestation, physically manifesting into the real world, a lot of things are going to happen. And so, you know, this is going to get really interesting. 2006 is going to be the year where I think a lot of things are going to happen physically, in this physical world, in this real life, in my real life, in my lifetime. So that's the reason why this whole episode is called Bitcoin in Real Life, because these are things that how I'm using Bitcoin in real life. I bought this. This is just nothing more than a piece of plastic if you really look at it. So all I'm doing is sending out someone a piece of plastic. But you're probably wondering, where did I get the money to do this? Well, I got it from Bitcoin, from the creator. The creator gave me this money for me to establish the new world. And so that's what I'm doing with my Bitcoins. That's what I'm doing with my real life. In real life, that's how I'm using Bitcoin. And so, anyways, let's go back to the screen. And so these are some of the things that I'm doing. And eventually, it's gonna, you know, you have to start somewhere. You're gonna have to start someplace. And you're gonna have to start at some time. Anyways, I guess this concludes this episode. I'm not going to try and make this too long. I just want to do some news, do some updates, and talk about some of the things I'm doing in real life with Bitcoin. So anyways, this concludes this episode. Feel free to like, dislike, leave a comment, even do a video response. Until next time, stay tuned.